All right, guys, we're back again with the Dynamic Man podcast, and we got a great show today. Apologize for the delay, backed up a little bit on client calls, and my computer was glitching out, and I could not get my beautiful face to show on this stream, so I had to restart my computer. It's all good. We're back. We're back again today, and we are going to have a good time here talking about this topic. So, a lot of what we're going to be going into today has to do with risk assessment when it comes to commitment. I'm going to be talking about this both on a practical level, but also on a conceptual level. Because I want you guys to start to think about things differently, to think about like what is actually even the value to begin with of commitment. Why even bother doing it? And there's a bigger conversation here we have to have because look, I think when it comes to marriage, one of the issues that so many of the pro marriage or pro relationship crowd has is the inability to create a compelling argument for why to do it to begin with. So I can talk about, and we are going to talk about today, risk, right? And what are the real risks and how do you mitigate the risks, properly thinking about risk, but you also have to think about reward. If and I think the reason a lot of guys are unwilling to consider the risk of relationship, the risk of marriage, is because there is just not a proper argument put forth. And I'm not saying all these guys are going to accept it, but it's very clear that in Western secular society, there needs to be a vision of what you're even putting yourself out there for. And I don't know that, I think that's something that people who are in intimate, close relationships know from their experience the value of it, but I think they have a hard time communicating it. So we're also going to be talking about that and, what kind of women make those relationships. But and if we have some time at the end, we're going to go into some online dating conversation stuff too, brought to you by that famous new Twitter famous person, Hayden or whatever the fuck his name is. So anyway, let's get into this. So the first thing is, I was tagged beneath this post, and when I was tagged underneath this post, it already been a few days, and I just didn't have the time to write up the thought that I really wanted to bring up. This guy, apparently Hamza Ahmed, I don't know anything about him except that apparently he's blown up recently. I don't know who he is, but he said, I found 0 women who are worthy of marriage. There's lots of women who are great and you can have an amazing time with them, but I wouldn't get into a monogamous relationship with almost any of them, to be honest. You get the best experience when you're in a situationship with them instead of a proper relationship. That's when they want you badly. They fuck your brains out. You have amazing romantic experiences like a fairy tale, but with none of the cost of a committed relationship. You know you're a winner when your only problem in dating is too many girls want to fuck you and it's a time management issue. When that happens, you won't even consider a relationship because you're getting the best experience already. Why would you give up the 4 other girls who love you just to be with one who isn't even marriage material? You'll think this to yourself in a few years if you keep following my advice and get to this level. And if you meet a genuinely marriage material girl, then good for you, but 99% chance that you're delusional and she's not that great, but she's just manipulating you into believing she's marriage material when she's had hookups in the past. So, I mean, where do you even begin with this, to be honest? This is one of those things, though, that we're talking about how do you measure the value of something in life? So if you are measuring it by what kind of things are you being given from a woman to your ego, then there's no question that he's right. I mean, I have been in this kind of dynamic before. I've been in it before. I've seen 3 girls arguably 4. She kind of like was like a throw-in at the same time, to the point where, in a given week, it would be like Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, different girl every time, or at least, one of those girls was on Friday or she was on Monday. You know what I mean? Like, it was a constant rotation, a lot of laundry. I'll tell you that. I've been in this before, and I'm not going to pretend to tell you that there is not a real sense of power and satisfaction that comes from having that kind of dynamic. Okay, there is. There is. I mean, you have like a number of beautiful women who want to see you, and you're doing all this romantic stuff with, and you have no real obligations to them whatsoever because everything's ambiguous in its early stage. It's pretty awesome in a lot of ways. So why'd I stop doing it? Why'd I give that up? Well, I gave it up because if you have a soul, and no offense to Hamza Ahmed, maybe he's just going through it, but maybe he doesn't have a soul. I don't know, because at a certain point, it starts to grate on you on a deep level. Because if you actually are looking to connect with somebody, if you really want to connect with somebody, and that impulse, I believe it is a soul to soul impulse. You want to see that other person's soul. You want to really feel, who are they, right? If this is within you, this desire for union, this desire for closeness, to be understood, then you can't continue the situationship. I mean, I can tell you the hard thing for me was I had these women falling for me invariably, every single one of them falling for me. And I had to end it with all of them at various points because I couldn't give them what they wanted. They wanted more. They wanted more of that closeness. And I realized that I couldn't get more of that closeness with them unless I started to preclude closeness with other women. So I started to realize that there was a trade-off, or I had to be dishonest about it, right? Now, I guess I could have been really open. I could have been really honest. I was doing this, but it doesn't matter on a certain level. It's better to be honest, but it doesn't matter on a certain level, because what you're experiencing is the sense of like, and you can feel it inside. You can feel how you are taking this other person's energy. Now, if you are somebody who likes taking energy from women, if you are a parasite, then you will not care about this at all. You will not care about the fact that a woman likes you a lot. She's falling for you, and you, create an environment so that she can fall for you. And then you cut her off when she becomes too much of an emotional burden and move on to the next one. I want to, when I talk about the 3 tenets of being a dynamic man, tenet number 3, right? Tenet number 1, confront fear. Tenet number 2, expand awareness. Tenet number 3, operate in good faith. Hamza Ahmed is not operating in good faith. It's not operating in good faith. And, he's talking about love. There is no fucking love here. There's only self-love. There's only like self-masturbatory love in here. And I'm not trying to be moralizing with this stuff. I'm just telling you what it is like from somebody. If you actually love or care about somebody else, you cannot do what Hamza Ahmed is doing. You can't. You can't do it. You can have an extractive dynamic, and you can enjoy the fantasy that a woman projects onto you, but you do not have real love, because that's not what real love is. It's infatuation. Okay. So, infatuation has a lot of benefits in the sense of these highs that you get. But so the point I'm trying to make here for guys is that if you are someone like Hamza and you don't care, you do not care about being extractive, then good for you. Maybe you should take this route. But you have to know yourself, right? To thine self be true. Okay, it comes from Shakespeare. To thine self be true. You have to know who you are. I knew who I was. And I knew that I did not like to see women suffer because I was leading them on and taking stuff from them. And I knew that I also could not get the connection that I was looking for from a woman if I did that. So I had to choose at a certain point. Do I want all this karma? Do I want all this negative karma? Do I want to feel? Is the pleasure from these girls worth the pain of their disappointment? Some handle it better than others, right? And I realize I'm never going to get the depth. I'm never going to get the real connection. I'm never going to get really understood, because also in the cases certainly of many of these women, they weren't really seeing me. And I think sometimes people don't understand what I mean when I talk about this. It maybe sounds a little bit woo woo, but you have a false self that you put up. If you have really, like, we have different masks that we put on when we go around. Some people have less masks than others, but if you have any social skills or awareness, if you have game, you are going to put up a mask. And it doesn't mean that you're being deceitful when you put up a mask. It's just, that you want to blend into an environment. So it's no different literally than you go to a white collar banquet and everyone's wearing a, white collar suit. So you put on a white collar suit when you go there. That's social graces. You guys are all different people, but you're all wearing white collar suits. There's a form of interaction. You come there wearing drag, you're out of place, right? So that's all a game is. It's not fake necessarily, but it can become fake if you are pretending. You're not simply accommodating an environment if you're actually trying to pretend all the time that you are somebody that you are not, or that you will not let anybody see you except in a certain capacity. So if, Hamza Ahmed looks really good in a suit, he never goes out to any other event. He only goes up to these events because he knows he looks really good in the suit, and women give him attention in that suit. But he's got a busted body. You never see her at the beach, right? You never actually get intimate in a real sense. Doesn't want women to actually see him, because his identity, he likes to think of himself as this person that the women are infatuated with. And that's what's prevalent for this entire thing. And I know for a lot of guys who are watching this right now, they are not going to understand why you wouldn't want that. And all I can tell you guys, and I'm trying not to say it with too much disrespect, because I certainly have been there, but you're not going to know. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, then you probably, like, I'm not saying don't watch the rest of the stream. Maybe you'll learn something, but there is a piece of the bigger picture that you just do not understand. Like, there's a piece of existence, a depth to existence that so far has evaded you. And when I see this, like, and this is the thing that's so crazy to me, is like, I see this whole thing, and first off, there's a lot of projection here. Like, who's a marriage material girl? Like, he thinks he's a marriage material guy, but he obviously has complete lack of capacity to commit to a woman, which makes him very clearly not a marriage material guy, right? Like, a lot of guys in the red pill space think because they have value in the sexual marketplace that they're marriage material. It's not true. I mean, an OnlyFans girl has sexual market value in the sense that guys are going to want to sleep with her, but they're not going to want to wife her up typically, right? So a lot of this stuff is, you have to understand, what do you actually want? What are your values? And if you are looking literally to masturbate inside women, and to masturbate, like, jerk yourself off, jerk your ego off all the time, then by all means follow what Hamza is saying. This is how you get your maximum high. This is how you do the whole fucking line of cocaine, right? This is the drug binge. But it is a drug binge. It's an addiction. You're addicted to dopamine. You're addicted to the highs of these girls. This is not grounded material for a man. And there's nothing in here that's love, and there's nothing in here that's real. It's all just fucking bullshit. And you can like bullshit. You're allowed to like bullshit. You're allowed to like bullshit. You're allowed to be addicted to drugs, but don't try to pretend you're not a fucking drug addict. That's the main point of this rant here. If you want to be a drug addict, nothing I say is going to make any sense to you, and good for you. I don't give a fuck. So let's move to the next thing here, because this is something I said, and you know, not in any context to anything that Hamzat said. I use him as just a, you know, I don't have any issue with this guy. I don't know who he is. No bad blood, no beefing, but it's an example of stuff I see. And, you know, to his credit, he's maxing it out right now. He's doing well. So he's a good example to use because, you know, he's presumably actually getting attractive women. And you don't only really realize the trap of that until you're getting attractive women. So this is what I said earlier today. And I want to go over this with you because there's a lot of gold in this one, guys. This is Pat Stedman gold here. All right. So definitely go and like and retweet that. How am I supposed to know it's going to work out with her? You don't know, and you'll never know for certain, but don't assess the risk incorrectly. There are risks of action and risks of inaction. The safety of waiting is an illusion. You get older. At a certain point, options diminish. You're deferring the growth and experiences that come with commitment. You're losing time with future children and grandchildren. And why? Because theoretically, maybe you could do better. This isn't rational thinking. This is gambling. The truth is you might miss out on those other experiences entirely. Life is not guaranteed. You could die in a few years, or so could that special woman. No one is saying pull the trigger randomly on the first girl who gives you the time of day. No one is saying don't have standards or don't qualify her. But if you're attracted to a woman, values, vision, views are a lock, and you enjoy spending time with her, I don't know what you think you're missing out on. Do your due diligence, but if the boxes are checked, take the next step. Be decisive. Be a man. Not because men give women what they want. No, this is not about her deserving your commitment. That's loser framing and will cause you problems with her later. Make no decision about her out of guilt. This is about you and your capacity to navigate life without fear, whether you are brave enough to move on to the next chapter with maturity rather than desperately hold on to the old and familiar. The truth is, worrying too much about whether a woman is perfect enough is embarrassing. It's pencil pusher coded. Are you saying you can't handle the unknown? Are you saying that even if the worst happens, you have no ability to endure it? Are you so afraid of failure that you refuse to seek success? You should view marriage as an adventure. You will have ups and downs, and that's a good thing. That's a sign you are challenging each other and developing. As you evolve, your dynamic will evolve too. If things are stale, it's only because you've been stagnating. Growing together means continually dying and being reborn and thus revitalized. Intimacy is not a dead end, far from it. It's simply an exploration of depth rather than breadth. The point is this: yes, you will give up opportunities by committing, but you will also give up opportunities by not committing. You are giving up opportunities not only every time you make a choice, but every time you don't as well, because the world isn't waiting for you to decide. If you refuse to embrace the path forward, fate will choose it for you. But God rewards men who choose their own fate. Take her or leave her, but be decisive about it. Okay, there's a lot in here, and I want to unpack it for you guys. So let's start from the beginning here. So one of the things that I consistently deal with clients are guys who, and this is interesting because sometimes I'll have a guy and he's in a relationship, and he was in a relationship with a girl prior to working with me. Because remember, I work with guys throughout all seasons of their love life. So I work, you know, if you talk about archetypes of guys that I work with guys who struggle to meet and attract women. I work with guys who are able to get their foot in the door and get leads with women, but fail down the line with those women. You know, the attraction disappears, or they're getting the wrong kinds of women interested in them. They can't get keepers. And then I work with guys who are already in relationships and are having problems, various problems. Typically it's resentment, sex related issues, you know, lack of intimacy, fighting, disinterest. I work with all that stuff, and I work with guys who are going through end of relationship situations, divorces, and helping them to navigate that and the next steps, right? So I work with guys throughout the entire seasons of their love lives. And whether it's as a guy who meets a girl, or whether it's a guy who's in a relationship when he comes and talks to me, this is a very common thing here, that they don't know if it's going to work out or not. They don't know whether to commit. And there's typically a degree of hesitation when it comes to getting into a relationship with them. But obviously the real hesitation comes when you get to the point of marriage. because at that point, obviously, the stakes are a lot higher. You can break up, it's complicated to break up with a girl, but if you are, but that's mostly emotionally complicated unless you've started to, live together, etc. So they don't know. They don't know, well, should I continue? And what are some of the things that hold guys back from continuing with a woman? Well, one of the things that guys get held back from is the fact that they see other women out there. So they see other women who are attractive. They think, oh, well, maybe she's hot, and I'm giving this chance up with her, and they think about what they're giving up, right? And they worry, like, did I make the right choice? Am I going to be happy if I stick with her? And these guys are out there. These guys aren't clowns. They're asking the question in good faith. They want to have an answer to this. And one of the things I'll talk about often with them is this reframing, because I think it's because of the internet. Like, you never had these kind of conversations a long time ago, because society, maybe to an extreme, but broadly, much more healthily understood that if you are not committing to a woman at some point, you are going through an extended adolescence. You are not growing up. We live in like a Peter Pan society. People don't want to grow up. I'm not just talking about men, women too. They don't want to grow up. Everybody, each decade is a new decade. Like, I even hear guys saying, like, when I say 35's, the beginning of the wall for men, they're like, no, it's not 35. It's not 35. It's 40. Some guys clown and they say even more than that. Sorry, guys, it's 35. I mean, I'm not saying that some guys don't continue to look good and maybe look better into 40, but we're talking about what is like peak balance desirability before things start to decline. For a man, it's going to be in his early 30s. Between 30 and 35, he's hitting his peak. For a woman, you're probably going to say it's about 5 to 10 years earlier, right? She's lost that peak by the time she's hit 30. We can quibble about whether it's 23 to 27, but whatever. I don't, this stuff is autistic, to be honest. It's not, no offense to my autistic audience members. The point is that you do not have forever. You are wasting fucking time, and you are missing out on things. You are missing out on things. I don't know how, I don't, I like, I need to zoom myself big picture so you guys understand this. You are missing out when you do not move forward with a woman. If you think about this guy Hamza's lifestyle, this churn of completely replaceable and unforgettable women and experiences with women, he's getting the high over and over again. It's the same thing. Ultimately, it's the same thing. It's a different body to masturbate into, but they all have to do the same thing for him. They all have to play the role of giving him his high. So in a certain sense, any of the differences that are being experienced are illusionary. And one of the things that even helped me to see that I was getting ready to leave the game, or at least I was willing to leave the game, was the fact that I was able to get the same results by doing the same things over and over again. I had gotten to a point where there was not novelty in seducing a woman. Now, it's not to say that there weren't other levels I could have gotten to. I know that there were other levels I could have gotten to. But when I met my wife, and then there was a choice point for things to move forward, I said to myself, if I'm at a point now where it's either I explore her and I explore this with her and see what I learn from it and what comes out of this. Do I want to take this chance to really understand this woman and to understand myself through understanding this woman? Or do I want to go back out there and accumulate some more, drug addict scenarios where I get the high from a new woman? And I realized I could always go back to getting high if I really wanted to go back to getting high, because I'd already done it. I knew what it was like, but I hadn't actually. What was more novel, what was more different, was to go to that level and to explore the relationship more and to keep moving forward, right? So talking about this in life in general, you are not moving, you are not standing still. So when you sit there in your life, and this is not just when it comes to women, this is anything. You sit there in your life and you're thinking to yourself, man, like what should I do? Decision should I make? Well, let me think a little bit longer. Let me think a little bit longer. Let me think a little bit longer. What happens is you fucking wait there and stuff happens and you lose opportunities. It's like in the market, you leave money on the sidelines because you're waiting for that low, and what happens is the market keeps going higher. Don't ask me how I know that. I know that from experience, okay? When you decide not to participate in something because you want to see if you get a better option. Well, I'm not saying that there's never a context, and I'm not saying that you just jump into the first every little thing you get. Do due diligence. Understand what's going on. Understand why you're making decisions. But the idea that, well, I could be missing out on stuff. Yeah, you are missing out on stuff. You are missing out on stuff right now. And you're going to miss out on stuff if you don't choose to move forward with this woman who's a good fit. We're presuming in this conversation she's a good fit. She's checked the boxes, right? You're missing out on things that you don't even understand you're missing out on because you haven't been there yet. And part of the reason why you suck right now, your thinking is fucked up, is because you don't understand, you lack the wisdom to understand and the humility to understand that what you're experiencing right now is actually that there's better things that can come down the line. That there's better things, that there's more rewarding things that can come down the line. I mean, I made a post, and I didn't bring this to the show today, but I made a post in response to some people who were talking about how they, him and his wife waited all these years to have kids. And I gave like a nuanced answer, in the sense that there were good reasons for my wife and I to wait to have kids. It was probably a practical necessity, or it was beneficial for us. It helped us to sort out some things in our relationship, and it helped us to get into my business to get to a financial place. So, it wasn't going to be super, super stressful because I had started this business, and, the first couple of years, it wasn't profitable. But I always think now that I have kids, I'm like, man, if I had had kids, 3 years earlier, when maybe my wife was starting to get more ready to have them, like 2 or 3 years after we got married, if I'd been ready 2 or 3 years earlier, that's 2 or 3 years I would have had my daughter and my son, and maybe another child. That's another child that I'm not going to have because I waited. Because so you understand that there are costs to doing these things. You're missing out on stuff, and it's anxiety brain that stops you from being able to assess this. This is not proper risk management. It's not proper risk management. It's not proper understanding of where you want to go. And this is what I really mean with all this stuff here, is that I don't, we're going to get to some like bitter red pill stuff in a little bit, but I do not like, I see some trad people say, she deserves it. Like, you should marry her, do the right thing, marry her, do the right thing, commit. I hate that shit. I don't care about that. I'm not going to guilt trip you into marrying a girl. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, if you lead a woman on, you're operating in bad faith, and it's not great. But women can always end it with you anytime they want. This is not only if a woman's not getting proposed to and it's dragging on and on and on, it's not just your fault. She can walk away if she's tired of it. She can give you an ultimatum. You know what I mean? She can have some self-respect, self-value. So I don't like any of this. I'm not about that, guilt trip the guy thing. To me, this is just about you. How do you think as a man? Are you decisive in your actions? Do you let fear control your decisions, or do you move things forward? This is the same reason that I'm not big on the whole always wait for a woman to say I love you, always wait for a woman to do this, always wait for, like, fuck that, man. Like, yeah, don't tell a woman you love her if you don't know already that she loves you. read the room. But if you're waiting for her to get so desperate that she has to tell you, you're just operating out of ego at that point. You're not leading the interaction. And really what you're telling her is that if she wants to get things moved forward, then she has to start to nag you. You set a really depolarizing dynamic. No, women want you to choose them decisively. There's nothing like that's more humiliating for a woman than to have to like beg a man to choose her. And if you want to set up that kind of power dynamic in your relationship, good luck. It's gonna get toxic. But when a woman feels like the man cherishes her, that the man says, I want her, I'm going after her, and obviously he's pacing her own interest level, but he's moving forward. That's desirable. But putting aside the woman, it really is about you. That's what this is all about. So, I keep hearing like these guys and they're like, well, how do I know what's going to happen? Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You have no idea. But what matters is not that. What matters is that when you move forward, you are going to be growing from the experience. You're going to be alive from the experience. And I really believe that you're rewarded for that. Guys who are passive in choosing their fate, like everybody has a fate. Like I think it's this like, I want to be immortal, I don't have to choose any karma. Like, no, you have things that you are going to have to experience and learn from here. And maybe what you learn is that you lost everything. You got nothing that you wanted because you were so fucking passive. But if you go after something, even if you made the wrong decision, it's better to go after it and learn from it than it is to sit on the sidelines the entire time. And that's what I mean when I say it's pencil pusher coded. This is not a masculine thing to be so hesitant about a woman. And I'm not saying that. Again, I'm not saying that as some sort of guilt trip. Like, you got to choose her because, you're not a man if you don't choose her. I don't mean it like that. I mean it that you're not a man if you don't choose. You're perfectly willing. It's great. If you're like, nah, she's not it. Nope. Okay, choose. Be decisive about not choosing her. Give a firm no. But the whole dragging things around, this is very bad on the spiritual path for a guy. And, there is something to be said here about, well, how do you know, what woman to go after? And, I want to talk about this for a little bit. So this is something that came from my masterclass group. So if you buy my masterclass, which the link is below in this video, $690. It's about 19-hour masterclass. Yeah, the masterclass is going to be expanded to, it's a great course. Okay. It was my big brain dump in my first 5 years, and I'm about to give another big brain dump into it. But there's a Telegram group for people who bought it and for my clients. And there's like constant discussions going on in there. So it's a great group. And what I really want to emphasize, what I'm bringing up here in this response I made, is about how you choose. Because aside from the looks aspect that guys make, and by the way, you're always going to have a hotter woman, even if your woman is super fucking hot. She's not going to be as hot as another woman in 5 to 10 years tops, right? Like, this is another thing, you just can't stop it. It's so then you're going to be looking again. Oh, is there another hotter one out there? So this is like a sickness in how you orient. It's a sign of an inability to be decisive about stuff and to say, I made my choice. It was a good choice. I'm committing to it. I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna develop it, rather than trying to focus on how every little last thing isn't perfect. It's on what you do with it after you've made the decision. So one of the things that a lot of guys get hung up on, though, aside from the looks, is these emotional highs. And it's because they're, either they're used to having, maybe they had a really toxic ex, or some other girl, things flamed out really quick and there was this really peak high, and they're like, well, I just don't feel that way with her. And yeah, you're not going to feel that super high with a woman who isn't a keeper. Like the super high is typically not what you get with a keeper. The super high is typically what you get with a woman who's about to give you like a super low. And a woman who is going to be a good match for you, a good way to tell about this is the easiness. Like, I remember I spent 10 days with my wife when it was our first long trip. We were in Istanbul together. And this is still during like the dating phase, no labels, just. And I came back from that trip, and I remember like my mom picked me up at the airport and she was asking me about it. And I just said, man, it was just so easy. And it was. I mean, we were together for 10 days and everything just felt so natural and easy. Like we're just having fun. But I did not experience the same highs with my wife that I experienced with my ex. And my ex was like awful. Ex like was very, very toxic, did a lot of really messed up stuff. Um, I had a lot of really bad lows with my ex. And so there was a much higher level of implicit trust with my wife, even in those early stages, just because I wasn't being love bombed. And at the time, I didn't fully understand exactly why, because I had never been with somebody before who was so easy as my wife. Now, later on, we certainly had our disagreements and fights, but in those early days, it was very easy. And that's what you're looking for, right? That's not to say you're not going to have any fights or issues, but think about it. If you're having issues with a woman, if a woman's emotionally triggering you all the time in the very beginning, later on, you're just going to be totally exhausted. You're not going to have enough connection to be able to prolong that relationship. It's gonna fizzle because there's not enough compatibility between the two of you. So that's why I say here in this message in the masterclass group, I say generally a woman who gives you an emotional high is not a keeper, and the ones who make you feel good and level, it's just easy are. We sabotage the latter by rationalizing she doesn't hit the emotional highs or physical looks, etc., of some women who otherwise sucked. Focus on the thresholds across multiple categories. So you want a woman who turns you on, not necessarily a 10. A 10, of course, is great, but not at the cost of other traits. Better to have 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 9 than 10, 3, 2, 5, 4. I forgot a number here. Let's throw another number. Let's say another 4 in there. Okay. Think total score. The louder a woman will make your life hell, even if she's hot. And it's true. You can have a really hot woman, but she has really low character, or she's really frigid, or she's, there's a lot of different categories we could go into, but you are looking for her to hit the threshold in all the core categories. And, the seeking of a woman who's beyond your threshold is an ego seeking fundamentally. It's not to say that, you can't do it, but really if like your threshold is a good barometer of what you actually are going to be happy with. So a lot of guys have big problems with the advice I'm giving, though. They have big problems with it. And this is a lot of the bitter red pill stuff. So we got this guy here today. I don't know who this is. He's just a small account. But he was angry at the big commitment post I had, right? About commitment, the spiritual stuff. And I not shown the whole thing. It doesn't matter. You can look at this snippet here. The classic, if you don't marry a woman and handle 70% of the risk of being screwed by her in divorce and lose your kids and everything you work for, you're not a man. It's the usual like super hyper triggered stuff. And I don't really care about this guy. I'm not trying to pick on him because I have any malice towards him. He's just a classic. He's a classic red pill dude. Like he's got in his bio like 365 days of no fap. So it's like, this is what I said to him. Guys with no assets worrying about divorce rape who think they are somehow sticking it to women if they don't have children. Main ambition in life is not jerking off. If you explain this to a regular person, they would think you were ill, but it's just the red pill. And it's true, guys. This is the truth. Okay? These people are not proving anything. And, in a lot of these, and I have like a whole nother thread, and I'll show you in a moment, but they don't understand the risk profile of marriage also. So if you vetted for a good woman, which is a lot of the stuff we were just talking about, right? You're matched in values, vision, views. You have that. It's just easy. You're attracted to her. There's like a good charge between the two of you, like sexual charge between the two of you. And you continue to be aware, like you're thinking about, okay, how do women work? How do I keep the attraction going over time? How do I, you actually are interested in that person and you're interested in developing the relationship. You didn't just get married so that you had some woman who you could, masturbate into and feel safe. This is like the beta's version of the Hamza Ahmed paradigm where he's just looking for the safe woman who's not going to leave him. That's a lot of guys who get married. They're like, I got her. Now I don't have to try anymore. Now I can be taken care of. Now I'm safe. You're not fucking safe. You are never safe. As a man, you're never safe and you never should be safe. I don't want to hear about this safe stuff. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I don't care if you don't feel safe. A man is not supposed to be feeling safe. He's supposed to be on his edge. Marriage is not safe. Nothing in life is fucking safe. Except staying in your room and trying not to jerk off for a year. That's safe. And no one gives a fuck about it. No one cares. Oh, look at how I proved to myself I can manage my urges. I don't give a fuck about your nofap. I do not give a fuck about it. Women don't give a fuck about it. Nobody gives a fuck about it. You're not going to have any children. And you're going to have nothing to base your life off of in the future. That's what you should be thinking about. What you should be thinking about is, how do I build my legacy in the smartest way possible and minimize the risk profile? If you think that you're winning, a woman might divorce rate me. She's probably going to divorce rate me. 70% chance she divorce rates me. What? That's what you actually, first off, that's what you think about yourself. This stuff is, it's so crazy. It's so crazy because you hear these guys come in here and you have people who have happy marriages and they're like, no, this is the odds. This is the odds. As if every man and every woman in every situation has the exact same situation, has the exact same circumstances that lead to the exact same outcome, that you can just blanketly say, yeah, 70%, that's it. And of course, the number keeps increasing. It's really 50%. Some things show it even lower than that. But fuck it, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. The point here is that they're looking for an excuse. They're looking for an excuse not to go out there. And again, I'm not saying man up because I give two shits about women. I don't care about that at all. This is a guy who's saying, and there's tons of them like that, who say, I'm not going to have kids because women in divorce law, women, might betray me and take my stuff and the system's unfair. That is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing statement. It's not and this is not to say that the system is fair. It's not to say the system's fair. I have a client who is being divorce rate more than any other divorce rate I've seen. We're talking over $1 million taken. They might throw him in prison. I can't even talk about it. It's a horrifying story. The laws, the whole system is evil. And you don't have to tell me about the legal system because I went through it myself in a different context with January 6th, right? So I am very, very well aware of the corruption in the system. And I do not like the fact that the government has such a say in family court. All this notwithstanding, your takeaway from this is, how do I still get what I want and minimize the risk burden because of these situations? Maybe you're one of these guys who decides you're not going to get legally married. Look, man, it's not my choice because I think that there's a lot more benefits to it, but that's an argument I can understand. You're going to have kids. Okay, well, look, a lot of the court stuff actually has to do with child support, but whatever. You get a prenup. That's fair. These are fair points. If you don't have any assets, then why do you need a prenup? But these are fair points. But to be like, no, I'm sticking out. I'm going my own way. And take that, women. Like, women don't care. Women think you're a loser. They do not care at all. And you are proving nothing to anybody. And you see this, these people get really butthurt when you call it out. They get super neurotic about it. They get super defensive because you're telling them, it's like, yeah, man, you are just like, you are the worst poster child for reform, because guys who are successful with women and women will just look at you and they'll say, yeah, well, this guy is a bitter loser. He's an incel. Like, we just don't care. We don't care about him. We don't care about your pain. Well, nobody cares about a man's pain. Yeah, guess what? Nobody does care about a man's pain. Welcome to being a fucking man. No one cares. No one cares. If you understood that, you'd actually be able to make change in the system because you'd be a little bit bolder. You'd be willing to put yourself out there more. But instead, it's like, how do I deal with my, I'm a chronic masturbator, so I'm going to prove to myself that I'm not going to jerk off for a year. Look, good for you. What a fucking waste of energy. I just don't understand. I'm not saying it's bad to do NoFap, but like, I've talked about this like a long time ago. This is like training camp for the real world. Like a lot of guys in the manosphere are trying to find this like super safe, risk-free way to prove they have some self-control over themselves. Go do something difficult that actually puts yourself at risk. And yeah, marriage falls into that category. Having kids in this environment falls into that category. But if you have any hope, if you want to be a beacon of hope, then you're going to do it. You're going to take that on your burden. For me and for my wife, because actually, he says there's a difference. Businesses and investments don't get rewarded to fail. Well, first off, women do not benefit from divorce. Even if women do better in divorce proceedings, women do not benefit from divorce. You have to be fucking brain dead to think women, with the exception of like rare situations when you're dealing with a really wealthy chump, that women go into a marriage thinking like, yeah, I'm doing this to get divorced. Like, that's just pure gold digger stuff. And that's not the typical situation. Really what it is a woman gets into a marriage. She's hoping it's going to work out. She's at least hoping she's going to get a kid, some stability. The guy's a pussy and bores her to tears, and he's distracted. He's completely neglecting her needs. And I'm not trying to make this like that women don't fuck up and that women aren't entitled and that women don't have enough sex with their husbands. I'm not taking this away from women. I criticize women all the time. I call them out left and right. But this is what happens to women. This is the experience of women in relationships. It's, wow, like this guy, like I hate my life because I hate being with this guy because this guy sucks. That's what it's about. That's what so much of this stuff is about. There's no adventure. There's no real intimacy. And I've seen enough of these marriages and I see these guys, like it's tough to, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of, women interact with each other in a superficial way, but I've met enough, suburban dads to see just like zero energy. Like these guys are just, there's just nothing there. There's nothing there. And okay, was it the women who took it from them? I think maybe there's some of that going on. But I know guys who became suburban dads. I knew them when they were single. And the reality is that they were lucky to get married and have a woman who was willing to just bring them along for the ride because they had no vitality, no energy. They were going nowhere. They had a little bit more independence when they were single, and they lose that when they get into a relationship. But this is not like some crazy, guy who's about to do something amazing and he had a great plan and it was ruined. That's not the average guy. Okay. If you doing things that are hard and rewarding is what gives you satisfaction as a man, it builds your confidence. So for my wife and I, because my wife is not just my lover, but she is a business partner, and we have plans and we are building things together because we have a high trust dynamic. Having children in an environment that is completely materialistic and self-absorbed is a revolutionary act. Getting married and having a loving relationship, doing what we can to have a passionate relationship and to set that marker, that's a revolutionary act. That's what we're doing. And that's what I've led. That's the dynamic that I've created. That's why my wife loves me. That's why my wife stayed with me without any question through 5 years of hell between COVID and January 6th and all the aftermath. 1 year in prison, no issues, no threat while I was in prison of her going anywhere, seeing me every weekend, bringing the kids. That comes from the fact that I put out hope. I'm willing to put myself out there. Even if my actions frustrated her because they put stress on her and strain on her, she couldn't help but love me for it because she could see that I was willing to put myself out there and do something meaningful. A lot of you guys are too fucking pussies. And I'm not saying, do something quite as reckless as me, but man, like if you can't even if you are so fucking afraid of a woman that you won't even you'll get like a vasectomy and disappear into the fucking corners of the earth. Like, I don't want to hear any of your shit. And women don't want to hear it either. You're giving them too much credit. You're giving these women too much credit, and you're showing you don't understand them. You don't understand how to make them love you. These are skill issues. I am professional. I am. Thank you for the comment. I'm feeling it. I'm fired up today. So I'm just gonna go through this next part real quick. And some of the stuff I already said already. Women only has incentive to divorce you if you're super rich, Trump. But I just want to show you this. Like, look at how he starts to like freak out. There's a little fucking community of them, you absolute moron. They kill themselves every fucking year. You're so fucking cognitively disciplined. Go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. Look, do not misconstrue things. I have a lot of compassion and care about the guys who have had their lives destroyed by losing their jobs, by losing their marriages. Okay, a lot of January 6ers have lost their jobs and lost their marriages. So I know how the systems chew people up and spit them out. And don't think for a second I don't care about those people. But I care about those people by not making them into victims. And I'm not going to pretend that when you give up, that you are anything besides for a cautionary tale. I'm not going to pretend that. I'm not going to pretend, sorry, I feel bad for you. It's tragic. Don't ask me to like cry a fucking river when a guy decides he's just going to give up because a woman left him. I'm sorry. I don't respect it. And I'm not saying that it isn't tragic in that it's awful. But if you think, what am I supposed to do? What are we supposed to do as men? What are we supposed to do? Am I supposed to tell these guys they were better off? That they were better off doing fucking what? No fat for a year? Doing fucking nothing? Most of these guys, when they go through a bad divorce, they pick up the pieces and they try to carry on with their lives, and they're happy. At the very least, they've got kids. The kids are actually the thing that give them a reason to live. You try not to come for a year straight does not give you a reason to fucking live. Do you understand that? This is not a mission. If you're going to talk all this crap about women, you better have a really fucking good mission. I better see you like Elon Musk building rocket ships. But of course, no. Elon Musk is building rocket ships and he's got like 13 different kids from like 10 different women. Elon Musk doesn't give a shit because the same attitude that makes him not give a shit is the same attitude that makes him build rockets. And the same attitude that makes you try not to blow a fucking load for a year straight. Devote all your mental energy to not blowing a fucking load and having nothing else to show for in your life. That is the reflective energy that you put out there when you say, don't tell men to do things that might make them have any risk. You are a pussy. All the guys who act like you are pussies. And that's just the end of the story. That's the end of the story. So, all right. I think that we have hit that point pretty well. Look, guys, I want you guys to I want you guys to learn, right? I want you guys to learn how to avoid the pitfalls, and I want you to be resilient if you make mistakes, because that's what life's about. Life's about making mistakes and learning from them, and you're only going to get through it if you're tough, and you're only going to grow as a man if you're tough. This is not about avoiding the necessary risks of life. It is about learning to minimize them and to prepare for contingencies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. There's no sit on the sidelines. You just become a spectator and you feel like shit about yourself. So we're going to change topics here. I could probably have done this in a different video, but I really just want to, you know, you got to hit these things while they're hot. So we had this guy who is Tinder maxing, right? Tinder maxing. This is actually like super crazy. This is actually like appalling. But where is it most appalling? The most appalling thing, I mean, this is bad. And I admit the odds, like, wow, we're talking like 2 million, over 2 million swipes and getting 2,000 matches, right? So what is that, like 0.1%? Is that right? Hey, Jamie, check the math here, right? No, it's very low. So we're talking about like 0.1%. But okay, whatever. Or 1%, it's 1%. 1%, I guess, right? 2,000 is 1% of a million. All right, that's better. So that's so okay, so this is like 1 out of 100. 1 out of 100 matches. Am I doing this right? Am I fucking this up? I'm really sorry, guys. This is embarrassing. I think I was right the first time. I think it's 0.1%, but I'm gonna just do a little bit of math here. Yeah, it's 0.1%. So that's really bad. That's a really bad swipe rate. Okay, that's 1 out of every 1,000 people, 1 out of every 1,000 women is matching with you. And out of 2 million swipes, you get 1 date. Now, see, this to me, this section here, when we go from chats, 1,200 down to 1 date, that is where I think is in some ways, I guess it's the same jump down from a certain standpoint. You know, you're going 0.1% of 0.1% now. So what is going on here? Now, I don't want to belabor this stuff because some of these things are pretty basic. You know what I mean? Like he's looking pretty chubby in the face, like big moon face, not ideal. Um, you know, I don't think that women give a shit about the fucking fish. Do not recommend fish stuff. It's possible if you live out in a certain part of the country, maybe that you're going after a certain type of a girl, maybe there's some benefits to that or to a deer, maybe. But I'm just gonna tell you as like a general thing, I would not put that stuff up there. There's too many sensitivities to it. But this isn't. We know this isn't the main stuff going on here. Okay, there is more happening behind the surface with this profile. So what is it? Now, I know some people have talked about the fact that you have a lot of women probably denied him who were looks maxed, right? Looks maxing or looks matching rather. So you have women who really should be, and I've seen this all the time online where you have some like very meh looking girl criticizing the looks of a very meh looking guy. And, you know, everyone's like, actually, you guys should be together. But, you know, no one wants to be with who they should be with because, you know, we all have these little egos. But I'll say this, like, I don't know this guy's height. Okay. But I'm going to tell you that if you have a match rate this low, like, I don't actually want to so much diagnose everything because I don't have the full profile. What I want to make a bigger point about is that there's no reason when you are getting 0.1%, if you're not getting a single match after 1,000 swipes, just get off the app. Like, I guess I admire the persistence in some sense, but unfortunately, persistence in these contexts typically means an inability or unwillingness to do the real hard work, which is actually go out there. Like, I bet he just swipes on every single fucking girl, pretty much. I mean, you look at it, he only turned down 38,000 women out of 2 million. So, you know, we're talking like he's turning down like what, 5% of the women that he's encountering here. Like it's It's really bad. It's really bad. So it's not surprising me that he's gained such little results. I mean, this is obviously egregiously low, but he's not really trying on this app, and I bet he's not trying in real life. This is something that a lot of guys don't want to hear because apps are convenient. But if you are not very tall and you are not very fit, and let's just say looks are not your strong suit, don't bother going on the apps. There is no reason to go on the apps because the apps give everybody lower than what they deserve. But if you are an 8, 9, 10 as a guy, let's say, then you're getting 6, 7, 8 for girls. Those are all going to be attractive women. So if we talk like we mentioned earlier in here, okay, you're not going to be getting those bombshell girls who you could only get through Instagram, or who you would get through Social Circle or whatever. But you're getting attractive women, and depending on your objectives, that's perfectly fine. If you're trying to just hook up with girls, it's great. Even if you're trying to look for a special girl, you're going to hit a girl that crosses the threshold. You're going to get a 7 or an 8 who's going to cross the threshold for you. But if you're like a 5, that means you're going to start getting matched with like 3s. And it's just not, you're not going to get a lot of good matches, basically. You might even get lower than that. If this guy is not a 5, let's say this guy, I don't know how to gauge him. I don't want to gauge him too harshly, but I think that a lot of girls might judge him as a 3 or 4, maybe. Let's say on the lowest end. Let's say I'd say it's between I would probably give him a 4. I'm being nice because he's not like super super fat or anything, and I don't know how to estimate this stuff. You know what I mean? But he is somebody who, like, if you're a 4, like you're basically getting nothing. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel. So you have to go meet women in person. You have to build a social circle. You just have to go through an in real life vector. Guys who are, 6 and above, let's say, they can do some online dating, but really you shouldn't be doing it unless maybe you're a 7 or an 8, right? You shouldn't be doing it because you're just going to get lowballed. But you'll always do better in person. And really the only way you're going to punch above your weight is through in person. It's through building up your pre-selection, your persona, which are 2 of the 3 pillars of attraction that I talk about in my book, 3 Pillars of Attraction, which you can get if you sign up for my list, patstedman.com/sign up. It's totally free copy of the book and exclusive content 3 times per week. Everything, all those stuff is in the description. So look, if you want to get better with women, I'm going to do another pitch. You can get my book, Tackling Texting, on Amazon. There are no text here for me to analyze. I think it would be fun. I don't know what you guys think. It'd be fun for me to do one of these shows and actually analyze some text so you can see the kind of stuff also I do with clients. But I just want to say this, the big takeaway here is, he doesn't have to go to Thailand. He would probably do better in Thailand. I'm not going to deny that, but he doesn't have to go to Thailand. He just has to get out there in person and actually meet women in person. Mindlessly swiping right all the time is not a good strategy. And if you have that kind of lazy approach to dating, you're going to get this kind of dog shit results that he got. So that's the show, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to be doing, just to give you guys an update, I am traveling next week. We will have a Code Cabal on Monday. And the plan going forward is a Code Cabal every week and 2 of these every week. So we'll see if we can stick with it. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Don't be afraid. All right. Tenet number 1, confront that fear. Don't live life on the sidelines. I'll catch you next time.